Hey everyone, welcome once again to our Game Detectives review, recap.
As of now, still untitled. We'll work on that.
Retro, all the words that start with R-E.
Season 1, Episode 2, The Avatar Returns.
Of the television show Teletubbies, of course.
Now, this episode... I'm just going to ignore that. The episode was pretty much just the second half of the pilot. I think now we're starting to get to the actual crux after this.
Yes.
And it does sort of feel like a climax episode. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of nice touches still, and I was pretty into it.
Yeah. There were a lot of very good both sound design and then also there were just some really good, cool scenes that they did.
I think that's a completely understated thing, is how good the music and sound effects and voiceover all together are in this show, because I think that's really what makes a good part of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I noticed some other things, too, like I did last time. Just how they build the bending up. Like, anytime, Aang does something, like the padlock, instead of just doing it, he pushes it with air. And I think, if I was animating this scene, I would just have him unscrew it. But they thought, when they were doing it, if you had these powers, it would just make more sense to do this.
Yeah, I remember it was cool when he had, a hatch. And, with the hatch, obviously, you would, rotate it. Mm-hmm. But he rotated it, he had a ball of air that he, rotated it with, and then he popped out of it, which was really cool. Just, see that and see them envision how it would actually interact with real-life objects.
And it's interesting to see, all these new powers that he has that he couldn't do before. He sort of ran on the ceiling in a circle. He did the air scooter with the ball going around. I also think his confrontation with Zuko, there's really no dialogue, because, we get to that later. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really interesting to see how Zuko's arrogance is kind of his downfall, and how much Aang actually outclasses him in just basic combat. Because for the most part, I was watching, I'm like, I never noticed how he doesn't actually hit him at all.
Yeah.
At any point. And then they sort of have that great punchline where he smacks him with the mattress twice and then he's done.
That was the good stuff.
It was really good comedic timing, but it was also a good character moment. Because Aang is more of a pacifist. He doesn't really punch people.
No.
He doesn't really hit people with the staff.
It's more just kind of stop them enough for him to get out of the situation, really is. He has no malice behind it.
No.
It's more just, incapacitating them as much as possible. What I really liked about that scene is there's a part where they're fighting, and then, they zoom out of the ship, and you just see in that small window, the fire shooting out, which was really cool. It's a really cool scene, and it stands out really well because... you're getting constantly bombarded with this action that's going, and then it takes a break where it's just this bare gray and white scene, but it's the fire. And
it's those small touches where I look at this as someone who's a filmmaker, and it's I would never think to do that.
Yeah.
But it makes it's just a small couple second thing, and it's so simple, but it just sort of creates that scale in both a small sense and a grand sense.
Yeah. And it helps with the pacing, because you'd think that with that, it would be it cuts through the scene, but it does so in a way that A, makes sense, and B, actually helps the pacing, because it can kind of do more with what's unseen than what's seen.
Yeah, that is smart.
Because, we can because they gave us enough of the fight where we can kind of understand where it's going, and then when they take us away, we kind of fill in the blanks with our own thoughts about what probably is going on in that room, which is really powerful, I think.
The only other scene that really stood out to me was when the firebenders first come in and the ship pulls into them, and it's sort of just a very brief sort of introduction to how different these two nations are, and I guess three if you count, because you have the air nomads, which are very, very simple and, nomadic. You have sort of the tribal water tribe, which is a little more advanced, but still very simple, and then you have the industrialist, I guess imperialist firebenders, who have this steam and metal technology that is... Through, I'm guessing, what it's sort of supposed to hint to be is because they're destroying in the war, they have the resources to be able to create things like that and technology to advance. I think that's a good world-building moment. What I didn't like is, and this is just very open and it's very brief, is they have the thing where it's Aang, get out of here. We don't like you. And then they keep it short, which is good.
And then he comes back. It feels like filler.
That's a very classic kids' TV show. Get out of here. Oh, we really needed you this whole time.
Get out of here.
And they keep it brief, but it's still there.
It's still there. It wasn't necessary.
And the other thing I didn't like was, and this is sort of the first introduction to it, they don't talk about it really at all either, is I've always really disliked the Avatar state, which is what's at the end. He was able to water bend. He has the glowing
Which is also a really cool visually.
It's cool visually, but story-wise, it is such a Deus Ex Machina, because it's just like,
it's a cop-out.
Aang can't beat something, we'll do the Avatar state, now he can do stuff. And it's not like, I mean, the thing that immediately comes to mind is sort of comparing it to, like, Super Saiyan, I guess, where it's like a higher level of power. But what's different in that show is it's something you have to sort of work towards and earn, kind of, versus something that just, like, Aang has no control over. And I mean, we advance better with that further in the series, but for the first couple times it happens,
but I think for me it wasn't so much a problem, A, because we already saw him do it in the first episode, and so it kind of makes sense to me in that way, and also we see him defeat them without having that power as well in multiple instances, like the fight with Zuko, and then also when they shoot like the fire out at Appa, he also defeats them using just airbending skills. So I feel like to me it didn't feel like a cop out.
And that's what's great about the show is we get your perspective of I haven't seen it that much, and just as is, I think it's fine. But for me, it's just like I'm kind of used to Aang couldn't accomplish something on his own.
I feel like what could have been cooler is like using the oxygen in the water itself to like create something. I think would have been cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
And I feel like that would have been a little bit better than what happened with like the Super Saiyan.
I think they want to get that out there right away though, because it does become an important thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like story wise it makes sense, so I'm not mad about it.
We'll see, like, if your opinion changes, and maybe mine will too, watching this again as well. And that's what's, again, great about taking this episode by episode, different perspectives is what we see and what we don't.
Just going back to the sound design quick, I want to say this before I forget, but, like, just, like, the little humorous, like, when he was, like, bonk, 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 and, like, the sound it makes is really funny.
It's almost, like, public domain, very, like, Looney Tunes sound effects.
But, like, used in a good way.
That's what's great about this, too, is because it's a very split down the middle meld of Eastern and Western, because the design, the animation, the philosophy is very Eastern, but you would never really like that kind of like boing 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 like slapstick thing is kind of very like I said Western and Looney Tunes in nature.
Yeah,
and it balances really well. It's the kind of thing where you're like, oh, this sounds stupid just hearing it, but seeing it in action,
it balances really well.
Yeah, it works really well.
It's good. I think they have a really good sense of levity and when's the right time to like have that humor. And they make it brief, which is
they do a good job with humor in this series, because it is a funny show. It's more of a drama or action based show, but they're able to sort of cut the tension when it needs to.
And it's not like oh, they're trying to make a joke now. Like it's more just like actually like I laugh out loud more than Travis does, but I've laughed out loud both episodes. So
and there was only one mention of a potty break. This one.
That was funny too. I liked it.
I think you did the classic like this.
I did. It was funny.
Like it's like instead of a chuckle, you kind of do like the
like well, it's weird because like I like really weird comedy, but like sometimes simple comedy like that, like slapstick, works for me.
For me to laugh out loud, it has to be pretty like more surreal, like something like Regular Show or Aqua Teen Hunger Force is more like my laugh out loud type thing. But we have different responses to humor.
I prefer not to be listening to Sentient Meatballs, but that's.
I think Avatar is funny, but I don't think I'm gonna laugh out loud.
No, I will.
I'll laugh at you laughing.
It's fun. I think it's funny.
I think the noises you make are funny.
It serves its purpose, which is what really ultimately you don't go for the humor, but I think it's a good little addendum.
So that's episode 2, The Avatar Returns. Do you have anything else?
No, I feel like that it was a good episode. Like, that was a good, solid episode.
That's another thing is I'm noticing about this is the episodes go by really fast.
Yeah, because they're interesting and they're fun to watch.
I want to get to the next one.
Exactly. They're really... So, both episodes so far, I feel like were really solid.
Yeah.
In what they needed to
do. They're both good, but none of them are ones where I would be like... You know, at the end of the show, be like, "Oh, this is one of the best episodes." Yeah. This is my.
Well, I feel like the second one was better than the first because there's more action to it, and the way they use action, I think, is really, and it is used very well, and it's designed in interesting ways that I wouldn't expect, which I find most of.
Neither of them are bad, and neither of them have bad character choices.
No, they're good.
Yeah, so far, I think watching this for the first time, it's something you want to continue with. I imagine.
Oh yeah, totally. I think it's great. I love it so far.
That's episode 2, The Avatar Returns.
We'll see you later.